Hey everybody, Teching 101 here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about a rather larger-than-life character in the world of One Piece. Whoa. Did you just feel that? Whoa. He's here. Dun 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 dun. Da 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 da. Da na 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 no no. Huh. Well, it would appear that Zunesha the elephant is quite a bit smaller than we originally thought. It's okay, Zunesha. It's okay. You're still a giant elephant, just not 35 kilometers tall like previously stated in the Viva card. That was a little bit absurd, to be honest with you. Like, even from me, you know, like, it's One Piece. It's a crazy world, okay? So it's like, Zunesha, 35,000 meters tall. It's like, whoa, okay. I mean, yeah, that's neat and all, but, like, practically doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, the correction also leads to some issues as well, but Zunesha has been downsized. Zunesha has gone the way of the McDonald's supersize option. Now Zunesha is just, mini-sized. You can, like, medium Zunesha. There you go. Okay, so there is a website, there's a Viva Card website where it has a bunch of corrections that are made because sometimes Viva Cards are released and information on there is changed and corrected later on. I will say this, I'm very glad that even though, like, Oda does not personally, like, sit down and write out all the Viva Cards, they are doing their best to make sure that it's, like, as accurate as possible. There are issues sometimes that come up, like one that comes to mind that was a little bit of a retcon was Caesar Clown's original age was listed to be like 40 years old. Well, he was a member of MADS like over 30 years ago, so that didn't make any sense. So they had to correct it so he's like in his mid-50s, like the same as Judge and Queen right now, right? And so they correct stuff like that every now and then. And there was a correction involving Zunesha, thanks to Artur, as always. That's where I saw this from originally. He posted about it over on his Twitter page. So Zunesha's original listed height was 35,000 meters, and its original width was over 20,000 meters. So I did a video about this 5 years ago, way back in 2019, where I made this little chart, this handy little chart showcasing just how massive Zunesha is compared to all these other different locations in the One Piece world, right? Going by the depth of Fishman Island, which is 10,000 meters below sea level, going by the White Sea, which is 7,000 meters up, and then the White Sea, which is where Skypiea and Upper Yard is, that's 10,000 meters up. So even if Zunesha was walking, like, on the very, very bottom of the ocean, which, by the way, this isn't accurate even because Fishman Island might be 10,000 meters down, but the sea floor is not 10,000 meters down. At least not all of the sea floor is 10,000 meters down. Remember, Fishman Island is at the very bottom of, like, a deep trench. It's like the Marianas Trench or whatever. Like, you go all the way down this trench under the red line. That's where Fishman Island is, but all of the ocean floor is not 10,000 meters down. But even if it was, even if the very bottom of the ocean was 10,000 meters, Zunesha's walking on that, and then 10,000 meters up to sea level, and then another 10,000 meters up to the White Sea to Skypiea. That's only 20,000 meters. That's only 20 kilometers. So you still have 15 kilometers left where Zunesha's even higher than that. Okay? So Zunesha's like straddling the stratosphere, dear Lord. It's like Zunesha pretty much like the height of like the giant elephant was getting to the point where, I don't know, its trunk can just like lift up and grab the moon or something. Like, it was getting really high up there, okay? Considering we don't really know how high up the moon is in One Piece. It doesn't operate. It's not the same distance as our moon. Definitely not, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Like, Zunesha's just wandering around and Eneru's there and he's like, I have discovered the endless Vath, my homeland, my kingdom. I now rule over a bunch of these little robot guys that are now my friends, I suppose. And then Eneru just looks down and just sees a freaking elephant just looking at him, just like, hello there, giant elephant. Oh, Zunisha's favorite food is apples from Sky Island, and Eneru's favorite food is, I think, also apples. So Eneru and Zunisha could actually bond. Well, that's not going to happen anymore because Zunisha's now corrected to be over 5,000 meters tall, not 35,000 meters tall. 5,000 meters tall and over 2,000 meters wide. So it doesn't give an exact number. It just says over 5,000. So somewhere between 5,000 to 6,000, somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000 width. Okay, that's the new measurements for Zunisha. So this makes sense for things, and then it doesn't make sense for things, okay? Although I will say, I am glad of the correction, all right? I am glad of the correction, because if going by this chart is any indication, which, like I said, it's not 100% accurate, but if this was the case, Zunisha should easily be able to walk over the red line with this metric, okay? It just doesn't make any sense, right? When Zunisha was approaching the land of Wano, right? When Momonosuke was there and Zunisha was there, it's like, hey, Momonosuke, is it time? Is it time to open Wano? I've been waiting for 900 years. And Momonosuke is like, hey, just stand by, Zunisha, stand by. I gotta work out something really quick here. And Zunisha's like, okay, I'm just gonna park right here outside of Wano next to these government ships. The government ships are just like looking at Zunisha like, ah! And Zunisha's just like, just waiting on standby. I'm just parking here. Don't mind me. And then eventually at the end, Momonosuke just comes out and just like, okay, Zunisha, we don't actually need you today. We're not actually opening up Wano today. So just go home. We'll call you when we need you. Zunisha's like, okay, beep, beep, beep. Like walks away from Wano. So if Zunisha was 35 kilometers tall, even taking into account the portion of Zunisha that's under the ocean, because it has really long limbs, that's how it walks on the ocean, even if taking into account that amount of its body that's under the ocean, it would still be well over 10, over 20,000 meters tall. Like, that's way, way taller than Wano, okay? Artur has some metrics on exactly how tall Wano is. I remember doing a measurement on this where I was basing it off of the real-life Mount Fuji in our world, because Mount Fuji is like the mountain there, and then Wano has the earthen walls, and then it moved up, so Mount Fuji, like, you could see the summit of Mount Fuji in the flower capital, right? So if you measure all this stuff out, it can only be, like, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 meters tall, like, all of Wano, like, from going from the ocean up the waterfall into, like, the regions themselves. You know, it's like maybe 2,000 to 3,000 meters, okay? So Zunisha's new measurement of 5,000 meters, accounting for the portion of Zunisha that's under the ocean, so let's say around 3,000 meters walking under the ocean all the way down to the seafloor, not to Fishman Island, but to the seafloor, walking around there, and then 2,000 meters, so it's kind of level with the height of Wano, somewhere around there. And these are, once again, not exact numbers, they're approximates. That makes way more sense, because I think we can all come to the conclusion that the way that Zunisha was going to open up Wano was going to drain the water out of Wano. So all that rainwater accumulates in Wano like a giant bowl with the earthen walls that were erected, right? So Zunisha, being an elephant, could easily just walk over, stick its trunk into the Wano bath, the Wano bowl, and then just, you know, just suck it all up like a straw. Suck all the water out of Wano like a straw and then spew it out. And that drains everything. And that allows, like, you know, the earthen walls to maybe come down as well. And also gain access to Pluton. So that's the whole idea. That's the key. That's Zunisha is the key. Zunisha itself is not an ancient weapon. I know a lot of people wanted Zunisha to be an ancient weapon. I don't think it is. And I don't really see how it could be. Like, I could see Zunisha, like, if it was ordered to like, step on an island and, like, destroy it. Especially back when it was, like, over fucking 35 kilometers tall. But, like, as, like, we've seen Zunisha operate, Jack was almost able to cripple it. You know, Jack was able to bring Zunisha down if he continued his assault. It was because Zunisha was given the order to destroy Jack's fleet that he wasn't able to do that. But Jack was dealing a pretty sizable amount of damage to Zunisha's leg to the point where it was in pain and it was beginning to sway and things like that. Zunisha's a pretty old elephant, keep in mind. He's over 1,000 years old, right? So I don't see, like, you know, if Zunisha was was like approaching Wano or something in an attempt to destroy it, and all of Kaido's beast pirates saw it coming and was like, Kaido was like, we need to bring down that elephant. I think they could have killed Zunesha really with no problem, especially if Kaido went like turned into his dragon form and like bombarded Zunesha, and then King and Queen were also doing their thing. They could have probably brought, if Jack almost brought down Zunesha, or was looking like Jack had a good chance of bringing down Zunesha, Kaido and the beast pirates definitely could. So Zunesha itself is not an ancient weapon, but it is the key to unlocking an ancient weapon of Pluton. Okay, so you could look at it kind of like that. Also, Zunesha was a member of JoyBoy's crew, it seems. A lot of people are saying that since Emmett, the Iron Giant, was like the Frankie of JoyBoy's crew, Zunesha would be like the Chopper. And I have something else I want to circle back to that, because this is really funny. This giant elephant has been wandering the New World for well over 900 years. Zunesha's over 1,000 years old, but 900 years, you know, at the beginning of the Void Century, and then 800 years since the government kind of took control of everything, right? So it's like a phantom island. It wanders. It's hard to, like, lock down its position. But you wonder, in 800 years... You know, the government never found Zunesha. The government never, like, you know, especially with, like, the Gorosei and Eam and everybody was just like, we need to bring down this elephant. And that never happened. So wouldn't it be funny if, just like how Chopper's bounty is so ridiculously low to kind of keep it like, oh, he's just a pet of the Straw Hat crew. We don't have to take Tony Chopper seriously. Let's just give him a 50 berry bounty, or 100 berries, or 1,000 berries. You know, we'll just keep Chopper's bounty really, really low. What if it was the same thing with Zunesha? What if they keep underestimating animals on the crews of pirates, and it's just like, oh, Zunesha, that was just JoyBoy's pet. We don't need to worry about that, you know? And it's just like, oh, no, you actually need to worry about that. Kind of funny, but, like, it's interesting, because, like, Zunesha's been wandering the oceans for 800 years, seemingly hasn't had any big run-ins with the government or the Marines or anything like that, especially if, like, Eam was around during the Void Century. Eam would have remembered JoyBoy's elephant companion and be like, ah, yes, that is the elephant that JoyBoy had. We must kill it to remove all remnants of the Void Century. Now, Eam might have just been like, Lord Eam, there's reports of a giant elephant wandering around the New World. And Eam is like, ah, yes, that Boy's pets. Do not worry about it. It's just an elephant. Who cares? You know, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Anyway. So, that's, you know, part of it that makes sense, you know, being able to drain Wano and unlock Pluton and everything like that. Now, a couple of things that don't make sense is that also in the Vivre card, it was listed that Zunesha's favorite food was Sky Island apples, which, I'll be honest with you, like, even when it was 35 kilometers tall, like, it was so much taller than the White Sea and the White Sea. Like, I think it was out of range of the apples because it was too high up. But now, because it's 5,000 meters, it's like too small to reach up to grab the apples. So I don't know, maybe some apples fall down from Sky Islands every now and then, and Zunesha's like, oh, yay, apples, yay. So let's try to figure out, like, what would the actual ideal perfect height of Zunesha be. All right, I'm not great at math, but I'm gonna try. All right, so this is a new layout that I kind of made really quickly here. This is accounting for the idea that Fishman Island is located under the red line in a trench. It is 10,000 meters down. So keep in mind that from Fishman Island to sea level, that is 10,000 meters. However, we still to this day do not have an exact measurement of how big the red line is. So from the sea floor, Fishman Island, to sea level, that's where the red line is, 10,000 meters. But from sea level to Marijois, we don't know how many meters that is. I always hesitate to say it's more than 7,000 because that would be getting it into the territory of the White Sea and then the White Sea, and it doesn't really seem like the government I'm assuming they know about the existence of Sky Islands, but, like, they don't seem perturbed by them. It doesn't seem like, you know, where Marijois is, like, Sky Islands are, like, floating around Marijois, or they're dealing with threats of, you know, like, the Skypians or anybody that's living up there. I guess they could have also established, like, air control, you know? It's just, like, you know, it's like some of the Sky Islands that maybe were there were, like, stay away from that place because Marijois, they have the Gods' Nights and the Gorosei and stuff like that, right? But there doesn't seem to be an issue issue with that. So I'm going to say that Marijua is not 7,000 meters up. I'm going to say at its height, it might be only 5,000 or 6,000 meters, like right below the White Sea. Okay, it's not quite that high up, which would put the red line at a total height from the seafloor to the Marijua, like, maybe about like somewhere around 15,000 meters, I guess, something like that, you know, from there all the way up to Marijua. Let's go with that. So that's what we have there. Now, when it comes to the ocean floor, this is something else that doesn't make a lot of sense. So when the Straw Hats were submerging and going to Fishman Island, remember they reached a point where they were in the deep ocean, like the abyssal pelagic zone or whatever, where there's like no light that's being reached, okay? That's when they started to encounter those weird like angler fish and like the electric eels, like all those weird creatures swimming in the very bottom, the darkest depths of the ocean, right? And the Sunny was there like floating around, and I think Frankie mentioned that they were about 7,000 meters down, okay? So that's where the ocean floor is then, right? 7,000 meters down instead of 10,000 meters down where Fishman Island is? Well, that doesn't work, because if the ocean floor was 7,000 meters down and Zunesha's only around 5,000 meters tall, then Zunesha would be completely submerged in the ocean. And just like, he's like, wait a minute, wait, I'm smaller than I actually... like Zunesha's like drowning under the water. Part of Zunesha's clearly well above ocean level, sea level, and then part of it is clearly submerged, okay? So that's from what we see, right? So, there has to be a thing, like, and remember, just like in our world, the sea floor is not like an actual, like, it's like the sea floor is exactly 6,500 meters down. It never changes, right? This actually does make sense, though, if you actually put it out the way that, like, okay, Zunesha's been wandering the ocean for over 800 years, right? However, can't wander the entire ocean because parts of it are too deep. So I bet you that Zunesha probably has a specific path it walks around, like, you know, maybe not, and it's a very slow-moving beast, okay? So, you know, Zunesha could start here and just like, I know this is safe, and then just wanders in the same, it's maybe like is a circuit, like a path, but it takes like 100 years to go through this entire path. So nobody, it's still a mystery island. It's still a phantom island. No one can really pin down its exact position, because you can't locate it with a log pose or an eternal pose or anything like that, because it doesn't have a magnetic charge, because it's not an island, it's an animal. But it might be following a very deliberate path just over and over and over again, and it's moving so slow, and the path might take over 100, maybe 200 years to complete, okay? But it can't just wander anywhere in the world. We've known that. It cannot jump over the red line. It can't go into the deep ocean because it would be underwater itself. So that gives it a little bit more realism, the idea that Zunesha is not just like treating the, because with 35 kilometers, the ocean would be like a puddle to Zunesha. Like the entire ocean would just be like it'd stick its foot and it doesn't even reach the whole way to the bottom, you know, kind of thing. It's not even up to its knee or something like that, right? So this gives a little bit more deference to the ocean. Like, wow, the ocean is really, really, really deep, okay? Like, so not even Zunesha can wander anywhere, okay? It has to follow along a specific path of the ocean floor that's maybe around 3,000 meters deep, and then 2,000 meters of Zunesha is sticking out, and that makes sense for Wano, and that makes sense for the Straw Hats seeing it, and then climbing up it with Ryunosuke and everything like that. That makes more sense, so let's just go with that. Okay, fine. But if we're trying to be exact, like from the 7,000 meter depth up to the surface and then 2,000 above, I would say if you put Zunesha's height somewhere around 10,000, that would work. Maybe even a little higher than that, you know, maybe like 15, because then it could be like, if you're trying to put Zunesha like where maybe not its head, but it can lift its trunk up to like the White Sea to like grab apples and bring it down. So I would put its like total height above the above sea level to be like maybe around 6,000 meters above, and then 7,000 down. So where does that get us? Around 13,000. I'd say that would be the optimal height for Zunesha, somewhere around 13 to 15,000. Let's just go with that. But it doesn't matter. It's fine, okay? It's just a correction, so I wanted to talk about that here. And we're not completely done yet. I wanted to add an extra thing onto this instead of just talking about Zunesha's height the entire time. Zunesha is rather shy about this whole thing. It's just like, oh my god, could you please stop talking about my height? Please. It's just like, okay. Let's talk about this what if. What if Zunesha actually did open up Wano at the end of Wano? How would that have changed things? So let's say Zunesha really did wander over and drain all of the rainwater, and then the earthen walls came down, and then they had access to Pluton. Now, Luffy and the Straw Hats very clearly would not have gained access to Pluton because Luffy doesn't really care. I feel like Robin would have probably wanted to see that thing and see what it really was and everything. Frankie would have definitely been interested in seeing it and what's up with it and everything like that. However, the ownership of said ancient weapon of Pluton would fall in the hands of Momonosuke, who is the new shogun of Wano, right? So they defeat Kaido, Wano's walls and the water comes down, and then there's Pluton, and then Momonosuke just has access to an ancient weapon. Now, it might be a similar thing with Uranus, the sky weapon that needs the mother flame to power it up. So Pluton might be down there, but it might be like, drained of its power source or something like that, where they might not be able to get it rolling again, okay? Now, Frankie's there, so Frankie might be able to get a look at it, and he might be able to figure out something like, I can wire up a cola engine on this thing, but we're going to need some serious carbonation. Maybe Frankie could get, it's like, well, I could get Pluton running, just give me a few days. Like maybe, but I think Momonosuke made the right call to keep Pluton sealed and keep Wano isolated for the time being. It's not going to be isolated for very much longer. Give it until the end of the One Piece story, so maybe a few more months in story time, and I think Wano will be opened up eventually. But with the government lurking outside of the island, and eventually Aramaki's going to show up as well, that would have been a big deal if Aramaki shows up and knows that an ancient weapon is there ready for the taking. He might have stuck around a little bit longer. Then Shanks showed up. So we might have had this big epic war at Wano for the ancient weapon, and then freaking Blackbeard might have showed up. Like, I want that. So yeah, I think if they would have just had it there and Momonosuke is like, oh, there's Pluton, we have access to it now, everybody would start descending upon Wano, because now it's open borders here, and just descending upon the place, trying to get their hands on it, right? And Momonosuke has enough on his plate already, man. I mean, he's the new shogun of Wano. He's still really only mentally, he's only 8 years old, trying to run an entire nation, okay? So he has a lot to go with already. He probably doesn't have time. It was like I can't deal with this, this ancient weapon crap. So yeah, Zunesha went away, but will return, and then that will be the unlocking of Pluton, and then we'll have a big epic moment in One Piece where probably all three ancient weapons are convening. Shirahoshi uses the power of the Sea Kings to convene, and then Uranus is charged up with the Mother Flame that the government took from Egghead, and then Pluton is woken up from Wano, and then all three ancient weapons are probably going to converge at like Laugh Tale for the final war, and it's going to be insane, right? But anyway, that's the video. Just wanted to talk about Zunesha here. It's been a while. I mean, it's a giant elephant that wanders around One Piece, and there's so many other weird things going on in the One Piece world that we kind of forget about Zunesha every now and then. But let's not forget the fact there's like a 1,000-year-old elephant just wandering the ocean. It's just not quite as massive as we originally assumed. Don't worry, though. The giant Thriller Bark shadow monsters, those things might actually be like 35 kilometers tall. That I actually believe. So let's stick around with those, I suppose. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Teching, signing out.